All right. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Welcome to another episode, maybe another meeting of Fatherhood Talks, another workshop, another think tank. Is where we fathers get together and really try to put together some thought patterns and some ideas and some strengths for men who are fathers to get together and be strong. Welcome here tonight. I'm Ron Osborne Williams, father of one child. At this present moment, we're gonna let the group introduce themselves. We got a small but strong group tonight. We got big heavy hitters on here tonight. So as I look at the pictures of the faces, man, I'll take this 5-man team to the NBA Finals, baby. Here we go. So let these guys introduce themselves, and then we'll get back and talk about our topic for tonight.
J. Rob Menard, father of 2 young adults.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7 and 1 grandbaby.
I'm Frederick Adams, father of 3 and 1 grandson.
Good evening, fathers. I'm a father of 2 young ladies. Great to be on the show. Thank you, guys.
Good evening, guys. My name is Ed Tenney, father of 6, 3 biologicals, and a granddaughter who's home and thriving and doing good.
Good evening. Cornelius Fuller, father of 3.
Hey, Fuller, how you doing tonight, brother? Good to have you in the house, man.
Yeah. I'm all right.
See, look, I told you this is a team right here. I take this 5 with the 2 guys on the bench, man. We taking the league tonight, baby. We taking the championship. All right. So tonight we're going to be actually talking about the topic is mentor or tormentor. And when you think about this, I know that we probably don't think about this a lot. And I know in our program, we used to be the Fatherhood Mentor program back in the day. We really had a lot of focus on the idea of being a mentor. Mentorship was our biggest component. But I know that sometimes in that relationship of being a mentor, you can begin to have a funny relationship with your mentee or the father that you might be involved with, where it becomes tormenting to them because you want them to do something to your standard, but they really got to learn their own standard. And that, sometimes we don't think about, like, people, we're mentoring people, we're not mentoring to be robots. We're mentoring to bring the best out of them so they can be the best that they are. Not to just be like us, because nobody wants to be like, you don't need another Ron, you don't need another Lightborn, you don't need another Rohan, you don't need another Robert Jean Menard, you don't need another Ed Tenney, you don't need another Fuller. You don't need another Frederick Adams. You need you to be yourself and who you are, because that's who your children will eventually be able to identify with. Because what might work for me as a father, and if I'm mentoring you, may not work for you and your children. I may not work with you and your wife, or you and your child's mother. We gotta kind of, build the person, not sometimes we want to measure their actions. So tonight we're going to be talking about that, mentoring, a mentor or a tormentor. And I would love to hear, when we look at this, guys, as fathers, what do we think about mentors? Or how do we feel? And I know that every one of these guys, most of them, you were a mentor for another father in this program at some point, or you was mentored by another father. And I would love to, just be able to hear. We kind of talk a little bit about the mentor component of and how you view mentoring.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. When I hear mentor, and I think it's all in perspective, first of all, because I think a mentor who's good can become a tormentor because the mentee may not be ready to move to another stage. And so as we mentor people, as we talk to them and we try to get them as much as we want to prepared, if they're not ready to move, then we as a mentor become a tormentor because we're constantly holding accountability. As a good mentor, you're gonna set goals and hold accountability to the person that you're mentoring. And if they're slow and inactive in what they're doing, you become a tormentor because all you're doing is reminding them that they're not moving anywhere. They're not doing it. So I think regardless on how good you are as a mentor, it's you can't control the other person's behavior. I think it's interesting because I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I had to ask myself, I need to know where you are mentally, because of that same thing. And I didn't realize what topic was going to be today, but it falls right in line because of that same thing of becoming a tormentor versus staying a mentor. Because once I understand where you are mentally, I can then deal with you properly. Because until I can understand where you are and what your roadblocks are, it's very easy for me to start becoming that nagging person in your life because you just, you're just going to get tired of wanting to hear what I got to say because I don't understand where you are, what you're going through. So for that, I think that it's just taking a step back and assessing what the other person or your mentee, what obstacles that they feel that they have that may just be small little bumps in the road versus huge brick walls, so to speak.
I'd like to chime in regarding mentoring that's something we do day to day, with our children. And I think mentoring and coaching somewhat, they're close in some regard, that mentoring is teaching someone to hopefully mentor others. That's how I look at mentoring. But along the journey, there's going to be some coaching required, because in life, it doesn't always go the way how the script is written. So I believe that having goals that are attainable, and being a mentor, there's some coaching involved. And mind you, have, as a mentor, you have to be able to see what's going on. As what Minna just mentioned, you got to be open to talk to your mentee, and your mentee have to be open to talk to you for us to reach that goal. So coaching and mentoring in my opinion, they somewhat work together, because mentoring is one aspect, but coaching is also another aspect. That goes for your children too.
I think both of these two go hand in hand, being a mentor versus a torment. I guess it's like the yin and the yang, where what we do in the light is the mentor, and what we are in the dark becomes the torment. And so I think individually, we all struggle at some point of being a mentor, or we all aspire to be the mentor. And at the same time, we all struggle to be the torment. And I think this is why mentoring is so essential, because what it does, it allows you, the mentor is the part that allows you to give, versus the torment or the tormentor is the part of you that takes. And so with that, I think both is the constant daily struggle that being a human being that we can have. Again, there's only two flavors or two types of human beings. You can be a human being right or a human being wrong. You understand? So human doing right. So that's basically it. So I think that's where the mentor versus the tormentor, or the mentor versus the torment come in our daily struggle. And it also makes a difference between, again, I said this in an earlier show, the difference between being a role model versus being the whole model. And so you don't have to be crucified on a, what you call a hypocrisy cross, all because people only confuse one side of you with being all sides. You understand? And that's what it is. So yeah, this is a very interesting topic. I think we can dig deeper in this mentor versus the torment as we go. I'm interested to hear what everybody has to say about this particular topic.
I think it's something interesting that you said, Lightborn, about the mentor being tormented. And I think oftentimes as a mentor, we try, like you said, to be that whole person. And we neglect to look at ourselves, because we started at a point. Before we became a mentor, we had our own issues. Everyone has their own issues, right? And so we became a mentor because we overcame those issues. And I think we forget the torment that we went through in order to, I don't want to say place it on, because you're not placing it on, but just in order to empathize with the person that's your mentee. Because whatever obstacles that you had, they're going through their own thing. And we sometimes, and when you look at parents, and I'm gonna parallel this to parents and kids, as parents, when I talk to some parents, they forget that they were kids one day and they made their own mistakes. And so when they're dealing with their kids, they act like everything was perfect when they were growing up. And I have to tell them, hey, look, I know when you were a kid, you were not perfect. So you have to allow for a variance of mistakes to be made by your child, because every mistake every mistake is a learning experience. And so what we have to do is become teachers in that point and mentor them through those failures so that they can understand where they made the mistake at, so they don't do that same thing over again. So I think when you talked about the torment, it brought that idea up to me.
That's interesting you said that, because that's perfect. That's a great example of now that we adults, we're in a mentor position. But then we omit when we were children and we may have been tormentors. You understand? And I think that's a good pilgrimage into being a torment when you were young. What type of a torment you was when you were young. You understand? That evolved into the mentor you are today. So yeah, that's an awesome example of what you just gave, Bob.
I mean, when I was a mentor, I took it as either a big brother or little brother stage, depending on the levels of, the level of life that they was on at the time. And it was more like a cheerleading or complimenting or giving more confidence than anything. I mean, yeah, they fail or they do whatever they do, but also I let them know, like, we all do it at the same time. So, I mean, just get up and keep it going,
Mm-hmm. But and let me throw this in there. We think about our egos as men, and I think that one of the biggest things we have, especially when we look at this program and getting fathers sometimes to get involved or to be involved, is the idea that, hey, I don't need any mentoring. I don't need any help. I'm good. I know how to do it all myself. Listen, my wife happy, my kids happy. Listen, I got everything going good. Great. I ain't got time for that, because I'm only going to wait till it get to the worst that it can be before, do anything or be involved. And I think that is that idea of understanding that, we've seen, and I've seen, especially in this program, is in our work as fathers together, has been to be able to show fathers that you can be a mentor and a mentee at the same time. You can know everything and learn a whole bunch more at the same time. You're not in this position where you have to feel insecure that I'm going to say there's something I'm not doing as a father, or something I'm not doing right as a man, that other men will then somehow look at you and point their fingers and say, "Ooh." It's more of a thing that in this kind of environment, we're looking at, hey, let's normalize this. Because guess what, brother? I have that same problem. And when you have that, you can, when you realize that something that you're facing, and you see this with mentor and mentees a lot of time, when mentors are able to show mentees that they've been on that path and that road. It's not different between what they face and what they're facing, is that you can see people now say, I can do this. Oh, and I want to do the same thing. I want to reach back and help another father or another friend of mine in the same capacity. But I'll say this one caveat: they have to be ready, because that's where the torment comes in. If they're not ready, we may, actually do something to really ever destroy their spirit from coming and being in this place. So you have to be very careful, very mindful of how we approach our mentorship and our menteeship. So I just want to put that in the air for us to chew on for a minute.
I think you said two things that are important, Ron. The first is that you can be a mentor and a mentee at the same time. It goes to that old adage, a man who feels he has nothing left to learn has a fool for a teacher, right? And just to say that you can, if you think that you know everything, then you're in the worst position than someone who thinks they know nothing. Because at least someone who thinks they know nothing will still go after that education, that learning process. They'll find someone to teach them versus someone who thinks that, the buck stops with them and all I can do is teach someone else. And so I think when you're a person looking for a mentor, I think you should always look for a mentor who is continuously learning, because they understand that growth still needs to happen within them just as much growth has to happen within you. And I think that parallel that you'll have with that mentor who is eager to even learn, who's going to learn and bring down more information and more expertise to you, is something that's great to search for.
Yeah. Hey, Gene, who wants to learn from somebody who stopped learning?
Yep.
That means your learning is going to be limited, brother. I mean, if this guy can know it all already, I don't know about that.
Well, gentlemen, keep in mind, we use the other word discipline, and many people are disciplined today. And discipline is, I believe, teaching, where you teach someone who may act inappropriately, may be fined for a bad behavior. So we see many of these people in the society today who are basketball coaches and even some politicians, if I want to go there, they need mentoring too. They're coaching, but along the journey, we all need, how could I put this? We need the light in the room. We need something to keep us focused, to keep us from swerving to the left into the embankment. So definitely mentoring goes for fathers, and it goes for all ages, because we're not perfect beings, and at times we do make mistakes.
Also, following on what Rohan just said, mentors have to realize also that mentors, that they don't know everything. but you have someone else that maybe connect with who does know what's happening with him. You do your best in talking to him and guiding him, but you have to know what your limits are and say, hey, I have this friend in the fatherhood program. He knows, he's worked with this. He knows what you're going through. So I'll be there with you if you want me to. You can talk to him.
Mm-hmm. Elder Thomas, I think that is the perfect example of how we really work and really uplift another father. You know, because that is one of the things. It's one thing to tell somebody how to get there, but it's another thing to show them the way. And also not only show them the way, but show how to do it by stepping first and showing your own vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And getting validated by that group. And then that person sits back and say, man, I thought he had everything together. He dealing with this. Let me jump in. Hey, can you guys, can tell me what y'all think about this? Because I don't really have that group of people to kind of talk to about this. And that's one of our biggest, setbacks as men and as fathers, not having the venues, the positive venues to really be able to be vulnerable and be validated with the issues we're facing on day-to-day fatherhood issues.
I think that's powerful what you said, because it's important that everyone has an outlet, right? So I'm coming up with all these sayings today, but I'm gonna give another one. You know, I know y'all heard the saying, I was never sick until I went to the doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what that just means is I've never gone to the doctor, so I don't know how I am health-wise. When I finally pick myself up to go there, of course they're going to find some issues with me because I've never kept myself up. And I want to swing that towards fathers and this fatherhood program and mentorship. A lot of times people don't seek the help until there's an issue, until there's a problem, or until they're forced to. And when you start looking for an environment where you can just do a mental health checkup, like this environment is a mental health checkup, in my opinion. I can log in. I know we're going to be here. I can say what's on my mind, and either what I'm saying is going to be validated, or it's going to be thrown out the window because someone's going to tell me the actual correct way to go about something. You see what I'm saying? And so this is one of those places where that can be done, and you bring your issues as a father. You're not really going to find that. And I'll tell you, and I wish Gaspar was on here tonight, because I think I would like to ask him that question. How often are you getting these guys who are forced into situations like this where it's free to come in at any time?
Mm-hmm.
And how many of them actually feel like there's a problem? Because oftentimes we could feel like there's nothing wrong, but mental health, physical health, any type of health doesn't have to be a problem before you find a solution for it. And that's what we call that preventative measure. Let's get into these type of locations. Let's get into these type of places and make sure we're okay before the problem happens. And so we're being more preventive instead of intervention, because intervention is a whole lot harder than prevention.
But hey, Gene, what you're saying is, and I think it's really important also to know that there are people paying buku amounts of money to go to something that's not giving them any empowerment. It's almost punitive. You know, a lot of the programs and things that would be about having a conversation to open up to the idea of change. That's not happening in those meetings. And happening in those meetings is causing the people to buckle down because they're punitive. And then it's saying that they need to do this, they need to do that. And it's kind of like they're not even hearing any of the issues or the concerns they have because they're so focused on telling them what they need to be doing and how they need to be doing this particular thing. And that, and then on top of that, they're paying maybe $70, $80 to have to go there. You already imagine that $80, man. I'm paying $80, but sometimes it's like $150. I'm just being always cheap when I think about the prices. But paying $80 to go to a place where they can't even voice any validation issues that they might want to address or any of those things. It's just all, you need to do this if you want this to happen, and you're not doing this, and you're not doing that, and blah, blah, blah. And somebody say, oh, that it might be over exaggerated. But I would say you have to be in those rooms to know that. I've been in the rooms. I've sat in these meetings, and I almost have to walk out, because when you have a kind of therapeutic setting that we kind of have here, that's relational and strength based, it's hard to go into an environment where there is no empowerment going on. There's only, as I would say, punitive reconstruction.
Punitive reconstruction. I like it.
Punitive reconstruction. That's what's happening in that meeting. And if you don't reconstruct yourself, it's gonna be more punitive.
But you know what? It's amazing, all you guys, we're putting everything you guys just said together. It makes me break up the word mentor, right? It makes me redefine the word mentor, because what two words that you hear in that one word?
Mm-hmm.
You hear men and you hear tour, and which means it's basically simply saying that men on a journey.
Yes.
And so sometimes our journey, even though most time we would want to our journey to be voluntary, sometimes the journey is involuntary. And so, which brings you back to the punitive part, what you're talking about, Ron, which is sometimes we want to do it and sometimes we're made to do it. And so sometimes it's God ordained and sometimes it's government ordained. But either way it goes, you got to understand that this tour, and in order to travel any journey and go on any tour, it's going to be predicated on what streets you travel. And so you got to make sure that travel is not a one-way street, and life will make sure it's not a one-way street, which is why you have the punitive or the involuntary journey and the voluntary journey, which represent the two-way street that life actually goes. So if you don't want to do it on your own, life will sometimes make you do it. You understand? So you can create, I guess you can contribute to the greater good when it comes to not just who you're giving to your children or the mother of your children, but the greater good within you that sometimes have to be forced out. Almost like mothers have to push babies out, is how men have to push their purpose out when it comes to what we're owed or what we created to give this world.
Well said.
Where's the go ahead.
No, we break up the word mentor and torment, and like how Lionel put it, men on a tour, but torment sometimes is I believe it's learned behavior. I believe sometimes as a parent or as an adult, we can behave in ways that we just learn on the street, learn from the music videos, they at work. You think you're disciplining, but you're really tormenting your child. It's not, I can't put my fingers on it, but we have to be very careful what we say. I always say words are like bullets. Once fired, they can't be taken back. So we have to be very cautious as to how we communicate with our loved ones, and just communicate in general, especially children who are looking to us as guide, as you say, mentor. So that torment is a word that we will have to avoid and be aware of it when we go into that area.
Let me throw something. Let me throw something out there real quick, and I know it going maybe start some different conversations. How you out here mentoring people when you don't do nothing with your child? You don't. What is you learning in that group that you not doing the things that I feel that need to be being done in this relationship as a father, for you as a father, and as me as a co-parent with you? You know, why is that even important? I know that somebody, and I'm taking somebody's words straight that they told me direct. You done went in this group and it made you a worse father.
Whoa.
Because you're not doing the things that fathers should do. You know, what I know fathers should do as what I represent. So, you know, how do we manage those things? And how do we stay our course when we know that those kind of ideas can be made about what we may be doing here and how we're actually, you know, spending this time together and now maybe even having a voice as a father that you didn't have before because you came and got involved in this group. That's probably the biggest part of it. That before you didn't say anything, you let everything go by. Now you kind of like saying, "Well, did you think about this side of it? What do we think about? You know, understand that when you get this knowledge, that somebody might not like it. You get this empowerment, somebody may not like it, and they might start to challenge you. How do we handle? Have you experienced, you know, that kind of pushback?"
I can answer. I want to answer real quick because many fathers are here. It's always the right time to do the right thing. No, let's keep this in mind. If you start out wrong, you start out wrong, you start the car and you rev the engine and it could be a Ferrari to a Corolla. It's going to get damaged.
Both ways.
Yeah. You have to start right. And keep in mind, there is culture, there is expectation of fathers. And sometimes doing the right thing is not popular. It's not what everybody wants. And that can be an uphill task, because if everyone is going east and you're trying to go west, that's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ron, let me challenge you a little bit on that. What's the right thing? You say I don't want us to be so general, right? Because general can lead to, you know, people making their own assumption. Can we be a little bit more specific in what's a right thing, a wrong thing? I mean, I think Lionel said this already. There's two types of human: the right human and the wrong human.
Right. But my perspective of the right thing is, you have to budget your time. If you are a working individual, if you are a CEO, if you are whatever position you are in, the right thing is just, in my opinion, as a father, is to try and spend as much time with your children. That's something we advocate for in the fatherhood program. You know, I've heard cases where people just write a check. A check is not time. So I think spending the right time, if you can't make it there, you text your children, have that open communication with your children and your child's mother. Because let me say this clearly, you may not be the ideal husband or boyfriend, but you can be a good father. So and being a good father is earned. It's not something, it's not a title you sign the birth certificate at the hospital. It is earned. So I believe doing the right thing is spending time with your children, even though we all here in this room and out in the world have our challenges. But spend time with your children and spend time, as we say, spend positive time. Make the time worthwhile.
I'm gonna steal something from Rohan. Advocating for your children, and that is something that a lot of times parents forget to do. And I'll tell you one thing: when you begin to become an advocate for your children, you will get pushback because of the fact that you're stepping into a role that no one's familiar with you being in. And so advocating can easily be looked at as know-it-all. Or you think you know better now. You think you're better than me. And and when you're advocating for your kids and people start to think that, a lot of times you have people back down because they're like, nah, I don't want people to think anything different. But that's the time where you step up and you say, of course. And not that I know better than you, but I know what's good for my kids and I know what's good and what they deserve. Because when you're advocating, you're giving someone something that they deserve. And you as a parent have to understand that when you advocate for your kids, you're trying to give them the best step, the best positive foots forward in life, and even in the situation that they're in at the time that they're in it. So I just want to add to what Rohan said, because what Rohan said was spot on. It's the time you spend with them, but it's also the time that you spend advocating for them too.
But you know what? I think, Ron, I think too often, sometimes you have to speak directly to your critic.
Yeah.
The criticism didn't come from the child.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And the criticism didn't even come from you. The criticism came from the mother, of the child. And so sometimes you have to throw out a rhetorical question, because sometimes when people are I feel like they feel like they're empowered by always asking questions, but never accountable to giving answers. You understand? And so then they become independent, you understand? Or dependent on the answers that you get, that you have to give. You have to make people work for their own answers sometimes. So she's asking, her criticism was, how are you gonna go to that fatherhood group and it's not doing any good because of you didn't have instant, or she didn't see instant gratification. And I think it brings me back to something that one of the founding fathers of this country said when they was criticizing religion, or the purpose of religion, which is almost the equivalent to the question of what that lady raised, or criticism that she raised about the group. And that criticism that they asked was this. They said to Benjamin Franklin, they was criticizing religion. Benjamin Franklin's answer was this, rhetorical question was this: if men can do evil or do wrong with religion, imagine where they'll be without it. And so the question is, if this man, right, can do wrong, you know what I'm saying, even though he went to the fatherhood group. So which means if this man can do wrong going to the right places, imagine where he would be without the right place.
Without any regulations, right?
There you go. And so
that's what I think about a lot.
Right. And so I think when we get used to people being so wrong, or we get used to people being wrong, I think after a while we start to depend on it. Because after a while, our right be predicated on their wrong. And it's like our right become in danger, right? When they decide they want to change their life for the right. And so sometimes people can get so dependent on us being wrong, you understand, that their right become dependent on it. And their right may be in danger when we decide we want to stop doing wrong. And so maybe she was in danger. Like, oh, right. You know what? Me being the good parent might be in danger of him becoming a good parent. And that may be the real root of that particular criticism that he faced. But sometimes you just got to ask a question for a question in order for people to find the answers within them.
So, Brother Lionel, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So my question would be, if you're enacting change and their right is predicated on you not changing, what do you do when you do change and you're criticized because of your changing? It's like, what took you so long? Or oh, where you been? Or don't start acting right now. What do you do in those scenarios?
I'm gonna go, because it leads to what I was gonna comment on, what Lightborn said. I think when you're looking at people and their criticisms, he said something that's very key: the instant gratification that they did not get. And sometimes your changing is not for their benefit.
Right.
Your changing is all for your benefit and for those who you're changing for. So sometimes that person, that other adult on the other end will never get the gratification that the kids are getting because you've made the change for them and for yourself, not for her, because you may never want to be with her again. And so what she sees as what took you so long, yeah, I've always been going this route. What took you so long to see the change? Because you're so stuck on who I used to be that you're not ready to see who I am. Who I was yesterday is not the same person I am today, because every day I'm making a conscious decision to be somebody different.
Yesterday prices ain't today's prices.
Exactly. And until you recognize that, and until you will recognize that, you may never see it. You may go a whole lifetime without that other person seeing it, because they're so ready for you to make a change for them when you're making a change for yourself and those kids.
Right. Hey, say that part. Hold on. Gee, say that last part again, because I think that is the most crucial thing that not only us, but people in relationship need to understand. Say that last part again.
I said, when you're making a change, you're not making a change for them. You're making a change for yourself and for those kids.
Right. So there's probably resentment for that too.
And well, you know what? I don't think it's, and sometimes, you know, and I love when the Bible say, above all things, get understanding. And to get the understanding of that, you got to first understand that just because you got to find the equity in what they're saying. You got to find the equity in criticism, right? And so the equity in criticism is the acknowledgement. Now, the acknowledgement is not to your favor, you understand? But they did acknowledge that you did change. And so the acknowledgement that, even though the acknowledgement came in a criticism, you understand? And then we got to understand the criticism can be because they're not ready for the acceptance. You understand? And so maybe at that particular moment, because no telling how much hurt you may, or disappointment you may have gave that individual. And so you got to be ready to be just as accepting of their criticism as they were before you got to where you're changing. And so, yes, you got to understand inspiration can be a reparation for somebody else. And so just because your inspiration, your change is good for you, you got to still remember that your change still owes somebody. It still owes some people that you haven't really paid back yet. And so you have to be just equipped to come with the change, because if you're going to change for the better comes with accountabilities and responsibilities. Right. And so it just don't come by the way, it's just not predicated or limited on the way you feel. You understand? It goes, or it's accountable to the way everybody feels, as opposed to how your change is going to actually contribute, you understand, to the environment that you're a part of. And so you have to be just as ready to not only change, but be ready for the criticism or the negativity that's going to come because of your positivity, just like the positivity tolerated your negativity before you changed. If that makes sense.
Come on now. You know, I look at that like in the church setting, when you bring a visitor to church or bring someone to church, and you know, they want you to hear more, like Bible study. You go to their house and do Bible study. You get to the point where you think, oh well, they're ready for baptism. No, God said to bring them to, and He will cleanse them up. He would take care of that. The same thing with what we are doing as mentors. We, like I said, we bring them, we talk to our mentees, bring them up to a point where we think they are, but we have to know our mentees too, and know where, and know if there needs some shoring up on something.
Point taken.
But I mean, I think that what Elder Thomas is also making a good point is stop Stop. We're not making soldiers. Okay. We're not making ready-made fathers. This is a process. This becomes a process that the father has to. Now, what we're doing is giving a place for this father to align himself, to join into a setting, but he has to figure out, because really he's the only person know the situation he's going into. He could tell us, man, let me tell you about this and that. Or he could tell us how great everything is. And when he comes here, it may not be that great. And then he's able to kind of now maneuver and recognize how to maneuver and make it maybe great or less detrimental to him. Let me say that. Because again, as they said in the great words of Lauryn Hill, they lie to God. So what make you think they won't lie to you? So again, all we can do is sometimes bring them into the fold, let them move around, listen, experience, figure out how they're going to begin to change. But also there's a lot of as I would say, when we have a group like this, there is a lot of, I almost say, conformity, peer pressure that happens. Just like on the negative side. If they in a group where nobody talks, F these chicks, I ain't I ain't paying this, I'm not doing this, that becomes normalized, and that's what they begin to do. I ain't going to see this kid. It becomes a normalization, and they become a part of that group that has normalized these things. Are you coming to a place where the positive, where you're seeing dads with their kids, talking about being with their kids, and then now you start feeling some way about, I got to do whatever I got to do to make sure I get my kid. I got to make sure I got to do whatever I can do to work this out, because I'm with these people and I feel their joy, and I want my own joy for that, and that's another way of mentoring. People mentor people from afar. People saying, I remember when people saying they wanted to be like Barack and Obama. That was an idea of getting mentored. Oh, I mean, I said Barack and Obama, didn't I? Barack and Michelle. Let me be careful, because I don't want nobody coming back saying I was saying something funny. Barack and Michelle, that was their relationship goals. And what you see is that people was trying to establish that based on what they seen from Barack and Michelle from afar. That's the same thing we do here. That's why it's so important, I think, when we open up and we talk about our children, our grandchildren, and what we're doing and how we're operating, because not very often you hear fathers do that. I know this, the larger majority of the time when fathers talk about, people want to talk about how many children that somebody has, is almost a slight. How many children you got? 6 kids? They all got the same mama? It's always in that. It's not to say, ooh, you've been fruitful, and now you being a father who is there to provide. It's kind of like, you can't do it with all, you got all them kids? How you being a father? Hey, that's impossible. And it's not. I think that we got to get, again, that's another stereotype type of thing we have to break out. You see some, I remember, what's his name, who was in our group, Chadwick, I think his name was. Is that right, Cornelius Chadwick?
Yes.
And he had how many? He had like 13, 14, 16 kids.
16.
And somebody would hear that and look like, oh my God, this is another one of these super deadbeat men, right? But I remember when we had the kickball tournament, Chadwick had 2 teams himself with his family. So I want you to put this in your mind now. Put it in your mind. There's no way that this man could be deadbeat dad, can't have all these kids. When we had an event, all of his kids, all the baby mamas, all of them sent the kids to the park that day to be a part of the kickball tournament.
Yeah.
And that was a testimony. We might not want to say it was, but that was a testimony to say, this is what we're talking about. This man has a lot of kids, but he is a father to these kids, because look at the evidence of them being here to not, this wasn't an important event. This wasn't like he graduated college. It wasn't like he was getting a retiring from, this was just a Saturday kickball day.
Hey, Ron, and at that time, Ron, both of the baby mamas, two of the baby mamas was going at it with each other, and they came together, and they was calm and cool, collect, and having fun that day.
Oh, great point. Another great point. I think that's another great point Cornelius brings up, is that the father initiated that it happened, that the family needs to be together. And the moms followed. They chilled out their differences for the betterment of the day of all the kids being there. But that started from him making sure he invited and made sure all his kids was coming. See, that started with him as a father.
Well, that's actually a teachable moment, because I think we rarely teach from real, or teach from the real situations. And so it's very, and you know what, that's what makes diamonds diamonds. Because if you don't do any, and it's crazy, these words kind of like are like homonyms, right? Because diamonds are diamonds, and you know, to reach a diamond, you have to do a lot of mining, right? Notice I said mining, and in some cases minding. And so if you're talking about getting the diamond out of, or get a diamond understanding out of certain situations that you don't deem valuable, right? And so that situation looks so gloomy and so dark. You don't want to go down into the depths to find out that if I was to put this on paper and to find out how many positives this man got going for him, versus how many negatives he got going for him. The positive will far outweigh the negatives, and here's why. Here it is, this guy got more than enough children that even if half of them failed at taking care of him in his old age, he still have another half to pick up on it. That's number one. Number two, the fact that he could manage relationship with people that wouldn't normally get along, but they'll come together on his behalf, is something to say within itself. Number three, the totality of the respect. You understand? The respect that these women saying, you know what, to most people, this look like an embarrassment, but this is my child's father. You understand? And the empowerment that comes from, he got 15 kids. You understand? But guess what? My child is one of them 15. And the fact that you will step over the embarrassment to get to the empowerment, just to say this man, you understand, is my one of my child, or my child is one of these 15 or 13 fathers. You understand? The fact that somebody will advocate for that type of empowerment in spite of the embarrassment says something that's priceless. And so I think that we miss a lot of teachable moments to reshape or change those narratives, to let them know that, listen, you missing out. And this is why our community most of the time missed out, because we don't know how to really seek the value, right? The value of empowerment and the very thing that ignorance will understand, or the embarrassments that ignorance is portrayed on us. And so even then, I think I had a conversation on the last previous job I was working on. We were sitting at the table, and the young lady, because it sounds really popular to say, so she goes off and she says something to the effect that she says, well, Lionel, you have to unlearn some things, right? And I'm gonna be honest with you, on face value, it sounds, and Facebook, it sounds really good. But something dawned on me. I'm like, you can't unlearn anything. Only thing you can really unlearn and truly unlearn is ignorance. You understand? Now, you can expand your learning, but you can't unlearn anything. And so she said that, and she didn't think about it, because it sounds very popular to say at the thing. And of course, I challenged her at the table at that time. I'm like, no, sweetheart, the only thing you can unlearn is ignorance. But if you learn something, why would you unlearn it? You expand on your learning, but never unlearn anything. And that's the thing. And the sad part about it is that young lady had a PhD behind her name. And so never think you are too small to challenge anybody who think they're too big. Just as long as you think you know and you can research and the fact that it may even sound like say it and challenge it, because you owe humanity to that when it comes to true education, because education ain't nothing but an intellectual evolution. And you owe humanity to give them everything that you was taught. That's your contribution to the world.
Hey, also, man, with Canadians, I noticed him also. He gave when the kids need time, he would take out time and talk with them, Daddy, and that's the most important thing as man and as father. That, like, I think Lionel did, or how you spell love. Time. That's
right.
How you spell love? Time.
Well, I just wanna say this, and that's where we sometimes gotta help some of our fathers, because there's a lot of love being lost because we spell love Time. If you can't get in the door, that love gone. If you got to be out the door, because sometimes it ain't just getting in. It's sometimes you got to be out the door so the lights can stay on and y'all can have something to eat in there. Here's another example. You're losing the love, and so it's a battle to try to manage that, even try to work through this idea of, I have this inside me, this love, but I can't give it because I don't have a Time. And people, it's easy, and I want people to say, I know sometimes we say this very cavalier, just got to make time. But we got to remember those people who, it ain't just, they can't make time because they don't have control over the time. But we don't want them to lose the mindset about having the time, because that time is coming. Listen, the time is coming. And as I always say, you just got to be ready. The second gonna come and you got to be able to say, oh, okay, what happened? Bam, here you go, I'm ready. Because if you don't, then it's going to be back into the excuse. See, I try to give them this one chance. I try to let them do it. And it could be your most inconvenient time. It always happens at the most inconvenient time that they're ready for, to give you the opportunity to get that love. And so sometimes you have to make sometimes you got to make a sacrifice. I mean, the sacrifice could be rough, but we got to look at how, really weigh that out. We got to be a good communicator and say, listen, this is listen, I've been waiting for this for 6 months. I've been waiting for this for 2 years. And this is probably the most unconvenient time for this to happen. And what
Ron, I'm sorry, Ron, but you know what? I'm sitting here thinking, and how both can be of value, because sometimes I'm the mentor, I have to become the torment. You understand? And so you may, you're a mentor, but you have to show up sometime when people don't like you. You understand? Just for the sake of love.
Yeah.
And that's the thing again, because I'm like, listen, both can go hand in hand. I don't want people to think being a torment is not of value. You have to be a torment sometimes. This is why as a matter of fact, it's your civil right to be one sometimes when doing it the right way. So you have a right to protest. You understand? And you have a right to protest anything that you think that's going to come, not only just against your humanity, but maybe detrimental to the humanity of your child, or even the mother of their child. Sometimes we can be detrimental to our own success. And so if a person is not mature enough to achieve their own success, then you being a torment, always showing up, and guess what? Always doing the right thing, right? When you get the wrong criticism. You understand? Or when you get the wrong result. And guess what? The right thing and the wrong, or the right thing to a wrong person is a torment. The right thing to the wrong situation is a torment. So don't always think being a torment. So don't always think being a torment is always in the negative or at the negative footsteps. Sometimes being a torment could be at the predicated on positive footsteps. So you can, you know, so we don't want to limit the fact that you know, mentor is like those are two separate boxes. Sometimes being a torment means you have to be a proactive mentor.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you, Lightborn, because that's what I was trying to get at in the beginning when I was telling you that there's a line where a mentor becomes a torment, especially when you're trying to get to that right side and hold that person accountable. And so you become that torment, but it's in a positive way. It's not a bad thing, because one thing is, if I didn't care about you, I wouldn't torment you. That's the one thing that people don't understand. And even if it's in, let me tell you something, and that's on positive or negative. Why do we spend time harassing these people? Because we care. If we care, we just push people to the side and be like, yo, you know what? I'm done.
Right. There's many people that's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And they don't care one bit because they stand out of sight, out of. Listen, and the great part is to describe, because when it happens, when this torment is happening, the person got to always vent to somebody about the torment, right? And then the light bulb won't come in when they talking to these people. Be like, yo, he always trying to come and get this child. He call every day because he can't get. The person saying, well, what? You don't want him to come get the kid? You know, he say he want to come and take the kid. Then he's coming now, and then it sometimes takes that for them to have to vent about your torment, that then they get the message, because somebody else who has been the same person that's been cheerleading them into how horrible you might have been, how they need to get on your neck. When they hear the opposite, they can't say. It's hard for them to turn around and say, oh, don't give him the kid. Well, you was the one arguing saying you need to make him get the kid. So that same person becomes the person that shows them the light. And now you're talking about two people venting, becoming mentor mentee, you know, on a whole nother level. And it's benefiting you. So as Lightboy said, sometimes you might want to be the tormentor.
Well, Ron, a quick one for fathers, and this is for everyone here and out in the internet world. I see where you say torment is mixed with mentoring. Please keep in mind, when it comes to children are watching you. When we have those behaviors, when we call the cops, when we're trying to get power and control, also remember your children is watching you. And please don't use the cops as a tool. They can be a bad tool. There are some that are good, but there are some or many that are probably bad. So keep in mind, torment could be used as mental and physical. It's not about power and control. It's about raising your children to be best, to be good, stalwart citizens. So keep that in mind, fathers, that along the journey, we are going to be challenged, but be careful how far you go to torment. All right, food for thought.
But Rohan, you know, on that same note, as a parent, you're gonna be looked at as a tormentor. And I'm gonna tell you how. Your kids are never always gonna agree with you. You tell them, take the trash out, wash the dishes. You're tormenting them. They're looking at you in such a way, but you're teaching responsibility and values. You as a parent, if you're not flip-flopping from mentor to tormentor, you're doing something wrong. And I wholeheartedly say that because of the fact that when you're instilling values, responsibility, straight beliefs into your kids, there's some things that they don't want. They don't care. They're like, yo, what's this guy do with me? And they won't realize the importance of it till they become an adult themselves. Imagine the things you say to your kids that you're like, when you were young, you're like, I'm never gonna say that to my kids. And you have a kid, and you say the same damn thing. And it's like, yo, I sound like my parents right now. Now I get it. Because when we were kids, we were tormented. I know when I wanted to go outside and play, and they were like, nah, you got to come back here and clean your room. I was like, man, what they don't understand, man. My friends are going to, by the time I'm done with this, my friends are going to be home. We felt tormented, but so I'm saying this because you've got to understand, like Lightborn was saying, and like I was saying in the beginning, torment is not always a negative thing.
Right.
Torment is something that will treat or teach values, respect, and all this other stuff. So it's all on how you, like everything else, it's all on how you use it.
Yes.
And I agree with what you're saying, that and that piece of torment of the extreme of calling the cops and using it as a punishment is shouldn't be done. But again, don't look bad on being a tormentor because you're a torment in somebody's life for the positive.
Okay.
Brother Robert, I got an example for you. I remember I'm like 10, 11 years old. My mom tells me it's my night to wash dishes. I go to wash dishes and I just do it just the half-ass way, just half-ass. She comes in, she has this pot, and I remember it like it's yesterday. She comes in, she takes her finger, a grease lining on the inside of that pot. And she took that pot and she went whack right on top of my head. And I can almost hear the reverberation of that pot, bong, on top of my head. To this day, anytime I wash pots, I am making sure that there is no grease on the inside of that pot. And I made sure I taught my kids how to wash the inside of the pot. Now, somebody would look at that and say, oh, she was being a tormentor. But yeah, she was tormenting me, but there was a lesson in that torment. And it may seem trivial, but yeah, I get it, Brother Robert. Sometimes you need to be a tormentor. Because even with a coach, you know, it's either drop 10, give me 20, right? That's torment. You know, so there are certain things that you have to do that is not going to be liked, not going to be appreciated, but for the betterment of their growth and development in the long term, they need that.
Well said.
I was thinking about that too, Teeny. That's a great example because kids will torment you until they get what they want. And I think parents get the most torment around Christmas. Matter of fact, we coming into the torment season. So I think torment works between what they call torment is essential or necessity when it comes in the relationship between parents and children. You know, mother and father. We all have wants. We all have expectations. We all have desires. And I think torment or just being a torment at times can be the process, you understand, be it negative or positive, to reach the outcomes of those desires. And so I think it's a natural thing. Being a mentor is a natural thing. Being a torment is a natural thing. Being a mentor is just the outcome of being a torment. And so one is the input and the other one is the outcome. And so I just like the way this conversation has just evolved into all different types of aspects of both, because at one point we could have just stayed on the judgment side of one and not even without realizing the value of the other.
Right. But Lionel, that's the, you know, the idea of having these kind of conversations. and not and not rushing them and not trying to have we don't have listen, the great part about our conversations is that we don't have an agenda. And you see, if you watch, and I tell people, if you go back and watch the different videos, you will not see like we have an agenda. The only agenda we probably have that's fundamental is fatherhood. And that's so that has so much variety to it that you can't pinpoint it. It's not a micro thing, it's a macro thing. So we can't like this is what fatherhood should be or not be, because you had everybody here who had their own idea of what fatherhood is, and we all bring that to the table and make this giant gumbo, just like America was made to be. So, and we all take from it what we take from it and go back to our places. So I think that's a big part of this, is being able to even go outside of ourselves as the fathers that we hear, even transport ourselves, not to know what the women understand or whatever, but just being able to be like that wise old owl to look over the top and pacify what the women might be thinking, how they might be, what the moms what our kids might be feeling as fathers in that situation. And that's important. It's important because we know that if not, we'll be in one of these, as I would call it, constructional groups. We'll be angry men constructional group, and we wouldn't appeal to a lot of people. Wouldn't feel a appealment to come, I mean, we've had, and I think about that. Have we ever had somebody that's really, really mad here? I mean, no, I mean, they might want to vent, they might want to validate, but in reference of it, the energy of everybody else kind of keep it in the mindset that, brother, you a man. Listen, you can't walk around here with your diaper full, man. Just take the diaper off. Just take the diaper off, man. Go get another one.
Yeah,
That's just the reality. You can't walk around here with your diaper full. And if you do that, then you feel fresher, you feel cleaner. You not walk around with that sag in the back. You go ahead and start afresh and anew. And then you can maybe even think clear. And then we're here to support you, because if you need us to put the towel up while you change the diaper, that's what we're here to do. These are all metaphors, man. I'm a metaphor master. Don't worry.
Yeah, I noticed that. Hey, Ron, I guess you can tap the other guy. Definitely tap the other guys for any answers or concerns they may have as it pertains to this topic. You heard me?
No, say that again.
I said you have to tap the other guys to see if they got any anything they want to add to the conversation. The other guys who's off camera.
Off camera, that like Cornelius, Jay, you're now. Anything, guys, that even if it's a question, even if it's just a comment about what we've been talking about. If you've been facing some of this or something.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm enjoying everything y'all saying and taking heed and applying that to my everyday life.
And you know what, Cornelius, let me say something to you. Not to you, but just say something about what you just said about applying this to our everyday life. On Saturday, I went and got a reading. I can't even pronounce the name. It's like it's not even, it's like African spirituality reading, and they use the cowrie shells to read and tell me not like the tarot card type of thing. It's kind of a little bit different. It was a lot, and I only got it done to see how she did it, and it was empowering, man, because I took what she said and looked at it as my everyday life and the things that I was facing, and it gave me empowerment. Only thing she told me that I can't be eating can't eat no squash or something like that. But I think that's a symbolism for I can't be giving away, can't be farming and doing stuff with squash. That's the only restriction that I had. Squash and some other things. That's I don't know. Pumpkin. I don't even eat that stuff. So, I mean, I eat squash. I love squash.
Excuse me. Pumpkin and squash.
Say what?
Pumpkin and squash is like brothers and sisters. Just wanted to know.
Right. No, that she was describing. That's what. And you know, this is I mean, the kind of stuff she was doing with but I'm only bringing that up because when Cornelius just said, I'm taking what we get here and putting it and comparing it to my own life. I took that stuff from that lady and compared it to what I was going on in my own life. And some of the things she said, I started looking at the people I was involved with and things that I was going on and this and that. And listen, that stuff empowered me to say, I need to look at this a little bit bigger. You know, look, and I'm going to work on it and try to do this a little bit better. You know, I'm going to work on those things. And so I hope that that's the same thing we're able to do when people are listening, when people are in the room, especially when they're watching. So if you need to, you know, again, I can't press enough that at this point we got almost about 30 shows on here. So we almost at about 30 some shows.
All right.
Go back and look at some of these shows because I did it recently. I went back and looked at a show, man, and I was like, huh? It's different. It's different for listen. I challenge y'all, guys. It's different for us being here than I was riding in the car and I wanted to play it for my buddy, and I played it and listened to so they could listen to the conversation that we was having, and it blew me away because I was like, you know, I was here doing it, but listening to it is a different experience. You know, so. And listen, you guys we got some powerful words and some spirit, some real good fatherhood spirit going in this. So again, I suggest people, hey, like, share, subscribe, ping the bell so you can know when we doing this, or just to have it on your cycle to say, hey, I can make a road trip. Let me listen to what these guys were talking about on this topic that I might be facing or dealing with. We're going to be having our new topics coming up soon. I got a whole bunch this weekend, so I'm gonna start working on them. I mean, last weekend, working on them, putting them together, and we'll be going into the new year. Any Jay, your nail, check in, brother. Anything you got popping? Anything you want to say about tonight?
I'm good. Thank you.
What did you just say? Oh, he just said thank you. I think he might have just said thank you.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. He said he didn't have anything to say.
Oh, okay. I thought he might have just said thank you. You know, again, it's not. This is not a lecture class. It's not math. You can just listen, but we definitely know if you have something you want to say, and this is probably the most important thing. If you have something, we definitely want to hear it. Not only want to hear it because it might be something that might be the thing to set the whole thing off. Person who ain't talking, I know I talk. I usually have to talk a lot, you know. Man, I know that myself. As the talkers, we think that talking and we missing things. But you people not talking, y'all listen. And it might be something y'all bring, and then you think, damn, it just blow up the whole spot because you done caught something that we were so busy thinking about what to say, how to say, what we was gonna say, that you just pinpointed on probably the most, you know, main point of the topic of the night. So definitely we always want to lend that opportunity for just the people in the room who listening.
Listen, right? So over the couple days ago, my son had his last soccer game, and I guess he was upset or whatever. I'm trying to figure out why he was upset. And he finally told me he cried and this their last soccer game. And I kind of laughed. And I thought about this shit. It was like, oh man, my bad. And I hugged him and whatever. But it was like, God, dog, man. You crying, you in the 3rd grade, you crying about a soccer game, boy? Well, you know, have y'all experienced some of that? Y'all like, you know.
Well, Cornelius, let me ask you this question. You go to all the soccer games, right?
Right.
Huh?
I do. I go to all of them.
So is this the last time playing soccer with them, period, ever?
Nope. And that was my fault. But see, his mama was like, oh, you was unsensitive or whatever she called me. I'm like, you gonna have a bunch of more games. And I talked to him or whatever about it. Like, you gonna have a bunch more games. You crying about it. You in the 3rd grade. Just keep going.
Well, let me just say this, Cornelius. I'm gonna say this, and people ain't gonna like it, but their moms have a lot of they put a lot of sensitivity into our boys lately. I'm just saying. I mean, and here go something. I'm gonna tell you something that's crazy. They ain't putting the same sensitivity into their girls.
Nope.
They girls ready to get with their moms like Negroes. But they got their boys like super sensitive. I don't know what it is. I have a friend. I was talking to her daughter, the daughter, and this and that. And I come in there, and I just as a dad, I was like, hey, you listen. And the girl listened to me, but listen, her and her mom was about to nut the buck.
Yeah.
And the son in the family, hey, mama, whatever, I love you, blah, 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 blah. So I'll say, listen, you know my dad, man. My dad moved to Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
But he said he had to move back here for my little brother. Because he said if he didn't move back here, he don't know he had an issue. And it's a good conversation, exactly what you're talking about.
Right. I met her too.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. So you know how she is. And not a bad woman, but just a very stern, modern, independent, somewhat, I would say.
Right.
Like to be married, though. She like to be married, she like to have a husband. And my dad said he need to come back because he really need to make sure that he knows what my brother's genetics of him is, that he needs to be there to reinforce those things so he doesn't become like, he needs to have that balance. There's a balance in here. He got a stepdad, but again, we know stepdads ain't gonna touch some things. They gonna touch, and especially when you have a mother who is strong in her beliefs about her child. Them stepdads kind of they kind of around the house. Hey, he didn't take the trash out. Different from the dad to say, hey, like my little uncle, my little nephew here, man. I grabbed the joke up out the bed, doc. He in the bed, something ain't done. I grab that ankle, pull him right on out the bed. He looking like, what happened? What happened is, brother, this stuff ain't done around here. And that's and you say he's learning a certain toughness and a certain accountability that he doesn't get with his mom at that point. And that's important. That's important. He sees his dad, but his dad his dad is tiptoeing because he's not in custody. It's about people who feel comfortable. So maybe Philly gotta put, you gotta.
Man, I mean, it hit me. I'm like, man, you 8, man. What you crying about a game? Come on, man. You tripping, man. I talked to him, I hold on to him, being sensitive or whatever. But hey, my oldest boy ain't have to do none of that with him.
Yeah, well, it's different, man. Mama babies, they got their babies, man. They get these. Hey,
I had my oldest since he was 3 days old. So God, dog, man. It's something different now.
Yeah, 3 days old.
3 days old, I had my old.
It's hard. It's hard, man. It's hard for our boys. I mean, I say this every day when I look at the violence in Philadelphia, and all I can say is, when I look at the moms that come on the news who either defending the death of their child or talking about defending their child for killing somebody, you see a certain tone that the women have, the moms have.
Right.
And that's almost probably the same tone that those young men have. You know, because they deal with something, and I come up to this theory that they deal with this role of, everybody like to say, oh, they the man in the house, mom got them being like they husband. That's not what I think they have. No, that's not what, I don't believe that. I believe what has happened is they have been told that they're the men, they had to be the man of the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't have any model other than to be like mom.
Right. They ain't got no model of the man of the house.
Right. So how do you model being the man of the house if there is no man of the house? You just be whoever's there, you be like them.
Or whatever going on TV.
Right. But your emotionality is listen, the emotionality that we forget for young men to observe mothers who are going through menstrual cycles and all these things, you know, the moms could snap it in. Listen, I'm telling you, hit me in the head with a rolling pin, man. Or just coming home late, man. I'm like, what? I get hit in the head with a rolling pin. I just was riding around the corner to my homeboy house. He hit in the head with a rolling pin. I had to make it to the room. But that's the emotionality that's way different than what my dad might have would have did in that situation.
Hey, Ron, I'm gonna have to be the timekeeper here. We're like, we ain't way over yet. We just a minute over.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Hey, listen. So, hey, again, Cornelius, check on that. I mean, check on that. You know, you got to check on that and got to keep that in check. But gentlemen, definitely, we had a good night tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Good conversation. Again, I would tell the people watching, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell so you can see more of what we're going down. Any fathers who are interested in having a micro conversation, join us tomorrow night. Look for the Zoom link in the chat down in the chat on our page, or look out for that. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Fathers, with that being said, repeat after me. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am. I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am. I am a man of respect.
I am a man of respect.
I said, fathers. I am. I say, fathers. You are. I say, fathers. We are championship fathers.
Hey, LJ not here. I could have won this tonight.
Again, when you see us flexing, we're not flexing because we macho, man. We're flexing our families, our kids is on our arms, and we're holding them up. So thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you all here next week, or we'll see you fathers tomorrow night. Good night.
All right. Good night. God bless you all.